Alright, what I got here is a photo that I took in Kentucky in the US. And basically I'd gone on a little bit of a crazy photo tour and done about maybe like 5 bands over the course of 2 weeks in the United States, just traveling from place to place. This was one of the last shoots I did. They're really awesome dudes. But one thing I didn't bring with me was, of course, like a whole studio set, because I didn't really want to drag it all around, and I thought I was pretty cool just doing things minimalistic with. I had a 580 EX flash on a cord off to the side of the camera, far right, and I had another EX flash, I think like a 430 or something, behind them, just kind of to emulate the sunset. You can see right here the stand that I'll have to get rid of. But you can also see that it was a time when I didn't know how to clean my sensor, and look at all that ridiculous sensor dust. Yeah, it's pretty horrible. But anyway, why I chose this picture for this lesson is because the exposure is just kind of so uneven because of the little amount of lights I had. And probably the funniest thing about the whole lighting of this picture is that on the one flash to the far right in front, it was done with a softbox in front of the flash, but the softbox I made out of a cardboard box, some tin foil inside of it, and I stole a pillow sheet from the hotel that I was staying at, cut it open, and taped it with duct tape over the box. And voila, there you have it, a nice professional photo shoot. But anyway, I'm going to be showing you some levels and curves. So the first thing I like to do is duplicate the background layer. So that way you can make all your adjustments on this top layer, and if you screw up a bunch of times, it doesn't matter because you can always delete it. But anyway, I'm going to go to Image Adjustment Levels, and you're presented with a box and a graph inside the box with all the different tonal values of the image. So this little slider here is the shadows, this little slider here is the midtones, and this little slider here is the highlights. And you can fiddle with that, and get a nice kind of contrast to your image. But one thing I like to do, just to get a little bit more contrasty results, is I always click Options here, and then I hit Enhance Monochromatic Contrast. And I don't know what that means at all, but it sure looks cool. And it just makes your adjustments a little bit more contrasty, which I like, I dig. So I'm not going to go too crazy with the adjustment here. I'm just going to kind of fix the contrast of it so it's not as flat. You can see what I do when I go way overboard. Whoa. Alright, that looks good just for that. Because I'm one of these guys, I like to do levels and curves, and you can do probably the same things and get to the same place, but I just like to do both because I like to do different adjustments on each one. So I will now show you curves. Same thing, image adjustment, curves, and you see here it's kind of the same as before with a graph that you can manipulate. Except up here is where the highlights are now, and going down is the midtones, and finally the shadows at the bottom. What I like to do first is I like to make what is called an S curve. So that is basically when you get this graph here and make an S. So I've upped the highlights and I'm dropping the shadows. That always gives a nice kind of smooth effect on the tones of the image. And that's a good adjustment for the whole image on itself. So I'm going to hit OK. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to duplicate that layer that I just adjusted, and then I'm going to do another curves adjustment and just go completely bonkers and make a ridiculous adjustment. And this time, instead of exposing for the whole image, I'm going to expose for the darker parts, like here in this water and this guy here that kind of, he didn't get much of the light from the flash. Looks good right there. Okay. Now you'll see I've got the ridiculous curves adjustment on top, the nice fluid one on the bottom, and of course just the uncontrasted original one. So what I can do with this top layer is just erase away the parts that got blown out. So by doing this, what I'm doing, and making my light more even and fluid throughout the whole image. As you can see, this kind of light part on the cliff I erased away as well because it was just too bright. You see this top layer, when I turn it on and off, the parts that I didn't erase are just getting affected by that wicked curves adjustment, but the parts that I did erase aren't. So what that means now is that this is all that's showing on the layer. So what I can do is on that top copy, I can do even more adjustments if I wanted to, and it would only affect those parts of the image. So you can get really creative with this, and it saves a lot of time as well. But no, it looks pretty good like that. And just because I did that wicked curves adjustment, the colors got a little funky here. As you can see, if I zoom in, this guy's just a little bit too orange. So I'm actually just going to turn down the red a little bit on that top layer, just a little bit. Alright, so I like to work in simplicity, so I'm just going to flatten all that. Alright, and that's my image. Now, I really want to make this sky pop out. So again, I'm going to duplicate the background layer, and I'm going to do a huge kind of a deep dark curves adjustment for the sky. And you can see when I do that how much cooler it makes the makes the sunset look. Okay, that looks good. But you'll see because of that, because the sunset looks cool, now all the guys look just too dark again. So I'm going to get my old trusty eraser brush and just go over it, you know, nice and loose with a smooth brush. I'm even going to turn the opacity down and go over kind of where the sky got too black, which can be a neat effect sometimes, but not for stuff like this. There you go. You can see the difference just when I turn it on and off. The sunset there looks definitely a lot more dramatic. And you know, as I finish this picture, of course, I dodge and burn a little bit, and I definitely fixed the colors in the sky here because they went a little green and weird, but I'm going to show you how to do all that in a different lesson so I don't confuse the hell out of you. And of course, I would get rid of this ridiculous sensor dust because that's just wrong. So here's another example I'll show you just to get the curves inside your head. This is my friend Noelle, and she's got very white, pale skin. And if I were to do like a huge curves adjustment and that was it, then the picture would kind of suffer because either her skin would get blown out or a lot of these nice blacks in her hair and her scarf and things like that wouldn't really show up too well. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to duplicate the layer. Okay. Going to do my basic levels adjustment in options, monochromatic contrast. Okay, again, no idea what that means, but it's pretty cool. I fix up the contrast a little bit. I could dip pretty deep on the blacks, but I'm going to do a lot of that in curves. So, you know, I'm just going to give it, you know, just a little pop. Alrighty. Now on this layer I'm just going to do my nice subtle bring home to your mama curves adjustment. You know, that one's so small, but okay. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And then I'm going to do the huge, ridiculous curves adjustment. And you can see her face is indeed getting very, very blown out. Not very fond of that look. Some people are. I can get this very, very top layer here and erase away. And when I'm doing that, it's exposing the nice little adjustment below it. There you go. You can see the difference there. And you know, maybe a little bit here got too bright, and definitely on top of this tin can here. Yep, that's looking pretty slick. I think I can even take it a little bit of a step farther and just do another curves adjustment on that top layer there, you know, and monochromatic contrast just to bring a little bit more out. That's pretty good. Let's see. Okay, so now let's go from the starting here. We have the original picture, then we have the nice kind of little curves adjustment, and then we have the big one. And even on that little curves adjustment, I still think her face is a little bit too bright, so I can even go a little bit over that and erase, of course, you know, just to fix things up a little bit. But no, that looks pretty cool right there. Another thing, I can flatten that. Another thing I noticed about this picture is I've got all this kind of nice dots of light here, the whole bokeh thing, I think that's how you pronounce it. And I'm just gonna make another curves adjustment, but you know, I can just kind of roughly select where that is and go, oh, you know, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna do another big curves adjustment and really, you know, bring those dots out without having to dodge and burn every single one of them. And of course, I'll get into dodge and burning in another lesson. Yep, so only where I selected got affected, and I can just get my nice soft eraser brush and just go back over the rough edges. Let's see that. Yeah, that's pretty good. Flatten.